So, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another panel discussion at this beautiful Rocket Vilnius Sustainability Week. I'm Andrius Milinavičius, and I will be hosting the Green Deal Impact to Fintechs and Beyond panel discussion. 2021 might become a year of new opportunities for fintech. It is said companies and startups to perceive and empower sustainability in the business. There are three key enablers that will affect the role of fintechs in green finance: data, government support, and policy and guidelines from the regulators. Green finance may be a huge change for the upcoming years. So can fintechs play a key role in building, or at least financing, a better planet? Allow me to present my guest that will be discussing this amazing topic. It's Duncan, CEO at EarthBanc. Hello, Tom. I also have Dominykas Stankevičius, investment associate at Launchpad Capital. Hello, Dominykas.
Hello, Andrius. Thank you for having me.
Also, together with us today is Jonė Vaitulevičiūtė, partner at Startup Wise Guys. Hello, Jonė.
Hi, everyone.
And last but not least, Rosvaldas Krušna, Chief Specialist in Investment Services and Undertakings Supervision Division at the Bank of Lithuania. Rosvaldas, you have to help me on this. What does it mean?
Hey, extremely happy to be here. Investment Services and Undertaking Supervision.
Okay, so what does it mean, like undertaking supervision? Honestly, I'm a human being. I need to understand
that. That means we supervise investment services and undertakings, which is another word for firms and entities.
Okay, got it. Guys, today we have like half an hour, a bit more than this, to actually give our viewers and our commenters some more understanding on the Green Deal, European Green Deal, and what it means for the fintechs. But let's start from the very beginning. European Green Deal is something like 1 trillion of euros. At least I heard this saying somewhere. And as Dominykas was laughing before, it's like billions and billions of euros. So, but honestly, what is European Green Deal and what is green finance? Are we talking again about the e-cars, electronic cars, and solar panels, or that's something more in this? Tom, maybe you can give me your take on this.
Yes, thank you, Andreas. Yeah, it's a good question. You know, how deep does the Green Deal really go? It goes pretty deep, is the answer. Now, solar panels and car fleet electrification, moving to renewables, these are all the low-hanging fruit. These are all the easy ways to get started by going green. But there's many tiers below that where you can go a lot deeper. When you start getting into supply chains and you start looking at the carbon emissions for manufacturing, you look at the energy use behind it, you look at the materials impact. This is all goes beyond just emissions, and it goes to water quality impacts, biodiversity impacts. And so what we're starting to see is that agriculture, forest management, and the way, in fact, that we live in cities is all changing. And what I know from the Green New Deal is, for example, there's about 750 billion has been allocated to retrofitting green buildings. To make buildings more greener and a better performance. But what we're seeing is that not a lot of that money is flowing through because there are some blockages. So that's a really big one, is making all the built infrastructure green. So that's going to be a big focus, but there are some challenges there.
Okay, yeah, Tom, you got very deep into this. Dominykas or Jonė, maybe you would like to add something, like from your perspective. How do you see this European Green Deal, or let's say, what is a thing called green finance?
Sure. So, Jonė, if you don't mind, I can jump in. So, I think for us, the key, as a venture capital looking into this industry, I think Europe has made an ambitious goal to become carbon neutral by 2050, which is the vision of the Green Deal. And there's going to be a lot of capital going into the market, and I think this will be a very, very fertile soil for the startups to, kickstart their innovative ideas. It doesn't mean that the startups are going to use the capital necessarily, but it means that there is going to be an ecosystem created around it. And I think this is where the venture capital is looking into now, how the startups can actually enable that money to flow directly into impactful areas. So I think this for us is the most interesting part.
Amazing. Okay, Jonė, but before you answer, we do know that fintechs blew the legacy banks, like at least in Lithuania, like with a brand new approach towards the services that they could give. One more time, fintechs blew everyone during the pandemics because they could easily adapt, change, and act fast. But what are the opportunities that are being unfolded with the Green Deal itself? From your perspective as an accelerator, maybe you were also like when you were doing the fintech program, as I'm aware of this, maybe you were also looking towards something towards the startups that had a bit different approach towards the fintech itself.
Yeah, so I think we can go like to kind of very far from kind of like the, what's fueling us. And of course, anytime we're looking to investment, and I hear that a lot from other funds as well, it's, how meaningful and potentially how sustainable it is. So of course, there is a big difference on, let's say the societal impact and sustainability in its whole, and then taking apart as a Green Deal, which is a bit maybe, it's super vast, but at the same time, it's a bit more narrow directed exactly at, let's say, environmentally friendly solutions. So I think the opportunities for fintechs, of course, they lie ahead a lot in promoting and giving access for, the society to actually invest in sustainable things, to track, the sustainability of other companies. There are many, many things that actually could be leveraged. And but I really like this saying, and I always since 2019, when Andreessen and Horowitz kind of published this, they said like every company will be a fintech company. We see now that indeed, like for example, the unicorn like Vinted, it might as well be considered, a secondhand market shopping marketplace, but at the same time, it's fintech which is fueled by sustainability. So I think it's very broad how you can interpret it, which actually startup is a green fintech and which is not. So definitely a lot of opportunities, and interpretation matters here as well.
Okay, anyone to add anything? Tom, what about you? For example, you are the startup founder, right? So you are looking at your fellow startups. So are there any very big opportunities that actually are lying on the ground and no one is looking at? For example, if you would be standing on the big stage today, how would you present this? Green Deal, an opportunity for you, startup, dear startup.
Can I actually add to this?
Of course.
So, opportunities at this stage are just endless. The gates of Babylon have been opened. If we talk about financial products, if we talk about sustainable financial products, we do not have data, we do not have ways to process it, we do not have ways to disseminate it, we do not have credit ratings. It's just endless opportunities for fintechs and just firms in general to step in and fill in the gaps. Sustainable finance is just a completely new field that has to be filled in. And the problem we have now, it's not necessarily a problem, but we have a high demand, but an extremely low supply. So someone has to come and do it, just fill the supply gap.
Okay, and coming back to you, Tom, now.
Yeah, this is a really great point just made now that, there is the huge opportunity, but there is a big supply gap. And this is really why we created EarthBanc, is to fill the gap in the sustainable finance market. One is we created the Sustainable Finance API, which essentially pulls data from everywhere, from IoT, from electricity, smart meters, from open banking. And it turns that data into ESG credit risk ratings. And then we create loan suggestions for banks, but also our own sustainable finance marketplace. So what this means is if you need a green loan, you can either go to your bank. Now, if your bank does not offer a green loan for what you need, for example, most banks are offering solar loans or maybe an electric car loan. But of course, we know the Green New Deal and going green is a lot deeper than that. So where we see that gap is everything else that is not green loans for solar or cars. So that means green buildings. If you want to retrofit your building, if you want to change over your manufacturing process, if you want to do some process innovation, if you want to start using AI and deep tech to improve your supply chain impacts, then what you need is something like what we've developed, this sustainable finance marketplace and API where you can access green loans, but also the intelligence that sits behind the decision-making of why give this business or person a green loan? Do they have good credit? What is the carbon reduction impact going to be when we give that loan? And then how do we then monitor that impact over time to show that this is really a green loan? Because truth be told, most green bonds that have been issued globally, that maybe they should be called gray bonds, because no one really knows if they achieve their green impact. And so this is where we think there's a big opportunity, and certainly EarthBanc is taking this opportunity, is to monitor the ongoing impact so that you really know you're not greenwashing. And when someone buys a green bond or a green finance loan that they're investing in, they actually can see the real impact. And that's where we need to get if we're going to achieve the 2030 target for the EU of 55% emission reductions. We need that more transparency. And that's where we see the big opportunity of filling the supply gap in investable green loans and proof that they are in fact green.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tom, for bringing this up. Dominykas, you represent a venture capital that is usually very suspicious towards the very big and promising and good sounding ideas. Greenwashing, where's this thin line, and how can we basically step back and actually understand what actually can be done towards the green finance, etc., and how we should guard ourselves from not getting into this very bad zone that is called greenwashing?
Sure. So, we in the venture capital, we like to invest in the rocket ships. They either fly or they explode. So
go big or go home, right?
Exactly. So I think this is our attitude. But on the more serious note, greenwashing is a big problem, and I think lots of companies are riding the wave of it and getting the benefits from the clients around that. But I think there's quite a few frameworks coming from United States, from European Union, and Europe and the European Union is very strong on providing like kind of unified frameworks for the whole continent. So I think when we look at the startups, we of course see if they follow the frameworks of the European Union, and more importantly, I think it's the feedback from the clients. And immediately, if the clients, they usually sense greenwashing. So if the company, let's say, provides some kind of services to the banks, they have to do their due diligence. If the startup is doing greenwashing, I'm sure that the banks will find that out pretty soon. So it's not going to be a successful startup. But definitely something to be careful of in nowadays.
Jonė, you're also, every day you see hundreds and hundreds of the startups that are tackling various issues. For example, if we speak about the fintech, if we speak about neobanks, do they instantly become very much sustainable and all those very big topics? What is your approach towards this greenwashing, sustainability, sustainable finances, and etc.? Is there actually something meaningful there? Is it actually profitable, or is it just a very big fuss that European Union has just created, and we still don't actually understand what is happening?
Well, honestly,
be honest here.
Yeah, now that you said so, I think still a lot of us, and I'm not pointing fingers to others, to myself as well, we don't fully understand, like this whole sustainability meaning, and maybe, what we should do to take it forward. So we do it little by little. I think still not enough, but we are getting there. And what I really enjoy seeing is that more and more companies appear with an honest sustainability approach. So they really come and say, this is the problem, we want to solve this, because it's already a little bit too late, but at least let's not leave it for the next day. And I just had a call an hour ago with one startup that's actually going after this trend, and you see the sparkle in the eyes, so you can really believe it. But how much it's greenwashing, I think it becomes a little bit maybe in later stages. It can become greenwashing when you actually have to go after some corporate goals, PR and marketing, and get like those users inbound for you to love them. So for example, some neobanks are launching wooden bank cards made out of some recycled wood. How much is this sustainable? I would say it's a PR campaign, right? So I think there is much more to sustainability than just like some kind of, do you use the digital card or a wooden card or plastic card, but also in your strategy, how do your employees work remote, or do you have like large offices with a basket of croissants that are never finished? How much of this is sustainable? So we also, I think we should look into that to understand how companies conduct business, not only how they preach in their PR campaigns. But to sum up, I think on early stage companies, there is a very honest wish to go after sustainability.
Well, I do have a metal card, but I've never seen a wooden card. Maybe that would be something nice to throw on the table. Rosvaldas, you represent the regulator, the Bank of Lithuania. Could you briefly say what's actually the bank's policy on the green agenda? What should everyone who is looking at us now know? And maybe you could point few of the opportunities that are just lying there on the table.
I will, actually. So one of the strategic directions of the Bank of Lithuania is going to be sustainable finance and sustainability on a broader scale. So the Bank of Lithuania is aiming to put a lot of effort towards greenifying the markets and greenifying ourselves. And the ultimate goal is to create the climate neutral economy. So, but on a smaller scale, we're actually aiming to create and maintain an environment that would allow for sustainable finance to flourish and to exist. And we're trying to do it through advanced regulations and supervision within the financial market. And by doing this, we hope we would allow for growth of the market and the number of the financial products and services provided. But for the opportunities, listen, so as I said before, I'll just say it in a different words, but economists are obsessed with efficiency. But currently in the market, you have plums and lemons problem. You cannot tell what's really green, what's really sustainable, and what's not. So there is an asymmetry of information. So the market just cannot be fully efficient. So there's a massive gap yet to be filled with all sorts of data, all sorts of ratings, all sorts of services. It's not just data, but promotion, as well. So that's one part. Another part is there is a massive lack of sustainable products as of now. So that's another area that just needs to be filled, and it's just up for everyone to take at this point.
Guys, but when I listen to Rosvaldas, it sounds very big, very powerful, but can you actually translate it to the startup-ish way of speaking? Jonė, if you'd be like making an opening speech at the hackathon for sustainable finance solutions, how would you actually explain, guys, look, it is a problem, we need a solution, and can anyone spend at least 15 minutes thinking on how could it be solved? How would that be?
Yeah, so I think I would say it's a sustainable, let's say, fintech, or even like those sustainable opportunities. I would say, can you create something that helps to support sustainability? So basically, any tool that that can be the marketplace for renting reused stuff or something like this. So just add a layer on top of that. Or it can, for me, actually, it's much more and goes beyond probably a little bit the Green Deal, is how can we make sure that, no one is left behind in a sense. So can we create financial services that will touch the untapped markets, maybe for the elderly, for the, for example, immigrants, and that's really booming for developing markets. So I would maybe concentrate on that, like really touching the society and allowing them to have the, the access to fintechs.
Okay,
so
Dominykas.
Maybe I can add here. I think looking from the venture capital perspective, it's very important that even if the startup is green or sustainable, it still has to be financially profitable. Otherwise, it's not going to work. It's not going to fly, right? So, I mean,
there should be a business logic, right, behind everyone
exactly.
sitting with the beautiful computers in the office, right?
So it's way easier to add sustainability elements on top of already financially profitable and working business case, maybe not necessarily profitable because we're talking about the startups, than to add a financially sound business model on only sustainable startup that doesn't generate anything, right? So I think we should also look into current startups and how can we help them become more sustainable. Meaning, if let's take a Revolut, for example, maybe they can add some functions, right, that would help their consumers to channel money into green investments. Maybe that could be way bigger effect than trying to create something from scratch. So I think it's also not only creating something new, but trying to improve something that's already in the market.
Okay, Tom, I'd like to address the next question to you. For example, is it actually easier to, as Dominykas is saying, to make something more sustainable, or it's easier to actually, from the beginning, to design a sustainable business model?
Yeah, this is a good question. I think, in different contexts, both can be true, but certainly for a startup, if you can... Oh, yeah. Can you hear me now?
You're back.
Is it coming through clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're back. Amazing.
Great. Yeah, I think there's a context where both statements can be true, but certainly with a startup, if you can work with a big organization like a bank or a fintech. So, for example, we're doing a pilot with Swedbank in Lithuania at the moment, which is great. It's on carbon reporting services for business. Now Revolut, if we could work with Revolut to do carbon reporting with them and maybe look at carbon offsets or investment products, this would enable us to grow really quickly, for example, to supply those services to that fintech. And we have a whole suite of services that could do exactly that. We're in discussions with some other very, very large neobanks as well. And so we think that there are big opportunities there. It's making green an existing business model that's already working. Working with corporates, we onboarded a large Nordic corporate client who, they're massive, and working with them, it's enabling them to go green. So our carbon reporting services that allows them to identify where they can achieve the carbon emission reductions in their own operations and their supply chains means that, this is where we're solving their problems of how they can go green. And it means we can grow off of that process. So that's kind of how we're working at the moment. And we think that it's a good model, the B2B model, because it's solving problems for the big incumbents who need to go green but don't know exactly how or have all the tools. And to make it honestly green. And one of the ways we track to make sure that there is no greenwash in carbon offsets or sustainable finance is to track the actual ongoing emission reductions. So we got some venture backing from European Space Agency, for example, to track carbon credits to see, is this carbon credit actually real? Did it really reduce the emissions they claim? Or is it a fake carbon credit? A lot of the airlines are selling carbon credits that haven't been audited for 8 years. So they're the problems we're solving. And we want to partner up with all the organizations who want to do good, but don't know exactly how or the best way to do it.
Amazing. Rosvaldas, if I would ask you, we do understand that fintechs can actually become role models in all of this topic. How would you actually inspire all the founders?
Absolutely. So, listen, I'll talk a bit about greenwashing, and I'll
that's beautiful topic. I love it. Yes.
Yeah. So Shell was one of the first companies that publicized their corporate social responsibility report, but while doing so, they were leaking oil in Africa, and they were not fixing their pipes because it was cheaper just to pay the fine. So where fintechs have to step in, they have to fill that gap of information and just to be completely honest with what they do and just move from here onwards. I think honesty in green finance is the most important part. So just be honest, be sustainable, don't be a little Belarus.
Wow, this is beautiful. Okay, Dominykas, Green Deal will come with a real tsunami of green funding. You represent a venture capital. It is usually a private funding or private capital, right? But from what I see, even all of the major European venture capital companies, they are changing their investment strategy towards more sustainable solution. But what it actually means for the founders, what should they be looking at in order to become a very match for the funding in the future or next year or maybe even this year already?
So, you know, as I said before, like I think the business model has to be there. Otherwise, like, I mean, it's not going to be an investment target for us. I think it's very important to distinguish differences between United States and European markets. Like in United States, you have a lot of high net worth individual offices who are pursuing sustainability very actively. While in Europe, it's more focused on governments pushing the money into the market. I completely agree that the venture capital firms in Europe are also becoming more green and focusing on that more. But I think it's also very important to understand who is your best investor and who can provide value to you. I mean, once you have a viable business model, then you have to choose a venture capital or partner or investor who can help you scale the sustainable investments. So I think that's very important to look into nowadays.
Okay, Jonė, what's your take on this? We do know that there will be a tsunami of money coming in, and well, Europe is famous by this. Like everyone is drowning in the money. No one is doing a real sustainable business. Everyone is having fun, etc., etc. But that doesn't lead us anywhere. You, as a partner at Startup Wise, guys, you do have your very strict radar on how you can actually understand, is this a real deal or not? So how are you looking at, is this a green deal or not? Can you maybe disclose some rules?
Yeah, no, I think it's actually pretty straightforward, and it comes a lot from, either pointing to how we are tackling circular economy and how we are dealing with, let's say, what Tom actually mentioned, and very good point, with, the supply chains of the products, and as well as, of course, even investing in the SaaS businesses. That's also very relevant, where, let's say, maybe you are a crowdfunding platform and you're promoting first sustainable businesses first, and you're giving the access actually to finance them first compared to the other ones, which are not, let's say, scoring high on the let's say, Green Deal ranking. So there is not a scorecard for sure, but it's quite clear, and it has to come with I think combining what Dominykas said, for sure, a very clear business proposition. But then if you want to kind of get that tsunami of money coming in, and that's for sure happening, then you need to be very clear on what you are specifically tackling, what kind of metrics in terms of environmental friendly solutions matter for you. And yes, we have been speaking with one pretty big European fund yesterday, and we said, okay, if you have actually pretty similar business cases on the table, you will take the one that has a little bit stronger sustainability angle, whatever that means for them, right? But this comes directly from the fund strategy. You want to raise a fund right now, you need to actually promote sustainability and the Green Deal, which you then transfer to your pipeline and your investment cases. So for sure, the funds will be looking into that and trying to, in all possible ways, to find, okay, is this contributing to that or not?
Yeah, and I also like this very interesting question. How can we make a green dollar work for better good, right? Not just spend it. So, Rosvaldas, wrapping up, what would be your take on this? We do know there will be a lot of funding. We do know that, well, founders do know how to create amazing solutions. So, what would be your advice for them? How can they actually use a chance of this tsunami of money and do something good for the future?
I mean, listen, so on the European scale, this area is actually somewhat legalized and regulated. So there is a taxonomy regulation that defines what economic activity is sustainable, or the economic activities that are not sustainable. So the easiest answer would be follow the taxonomy. But the more complex answer is, in the markets of monopolistic competition, where each product is differentiated, you need to fill all the places, and you need to have as many different products as anyone needs. So just try and do it. Follow the taxonomy and just try and do it. And maybe you'll find your demand, your niche.
Understood. Tom, you are the founder. You have created a sustainable solution. Your startup really represents the Green Deal, everything that it's beautiful in it. But for your fellow founders that are looking at us at the moment, what would be your actually advice for them? Where should they be looking, and how can they actually tackle or become role models in this green world in the future?
Yeah, for sure. As the founder of EarthBanc, a green fintech, we pride ourselves on developing solutions that have not yet been developed. The market is still finding its way. When we talk to the financial industry, we talk to the large corporations, they're finding their way. So in fact, there's a huge need for education. And I would say that there is an opportunity in EdTech. For sure, because, for example, I was doing a search earlier this week on ESG training and certificates, and I tell you, there was not many out there, and I was surprised. And I thought, well, here's a really interesting opportunity to be in the EdTech, and since the pandemic, it has grown exponentially. So that's one thing I would tell founders to look at is remote learning and courses that help corporations, that help others understand how to become sustainable. We spend a lot of our time doing that, to get a sale. So what I would say is, if there's more information and education in this space, that will certainly help. And it's a business opportunity. There's often a lot of budget for training. So that's one area I would encourage founders to look at. Like what Jonė also said, the markets for secondhand materials and the local economy is a great opportunity. And where we see ourselves fitting in, if a founder comes up with a sustainability solution, we want to be the one you come to when we talk about sustainable finance. We want to be the platform that you come and speak to when you're looking for a sustainable finance and green finance solution, or a green fintech solution that can be embedded into your marketplace, whatever platform you're running.
Thank you so much, Dominykas. Wrapping up, you do represent a venture capital. So in order for the founder to raise today, we heard there has to be a business in the startup. What else? How do you tackle the sustainability? And maybe you can disclose something that is written in your investment agenda.
So, we focus a lot on investing. We tend to look at diversity. I think that's coming from United States. There's a lot of push for more female founders. I think that's very important. If we look at specifically at the Green Deal, I'm very interested in data, and I think sustainability is such a complex environment, and the startups that are going to be able to provide data and that are going to be able to channel the billions and billions and billions of money into the market are going to be the ones who are going to be very, very successful. So I'm looking into innovative ways to bring data to the commercial banks, to the central banks, in order to get the money and use the money in more impactful way. So I think that's the key. That's the sector that I'm interested in.
Amazing. And Jonė, maybe you, last but not least, what is your take on this Green Deal itself and the startup founders, and where are you looking today, and what would you offer everyone to look at?
Yeah, so before investing, I would also always ask myself, is this meaningful? And, will I feel proud later on that we have invested in this? And not because of the return, because we know it's an extremely risky game. But let's put it more like, frankly, a marketing optimization tool, not really excited. Would I be even proud of that? Definitely no, especially, with the current ongoings. So we are trying to ask these questions, and it does not necessarily will always lead to sustainability. And this is where, I'm being very honest, like we still have to learn what that is. And it might be some eco toothbrushes that we have also invested in our sustainability badge, but it can be something much more, wide in a sense of, maybe it's creating a new bank for immigrants. And this could be a different type of sustainable and meaningful investment. So this is, our playbook, just really looking into that and asking these questions. And for the startups, the advice would be the money will be here. It's there already, really fastly coming to the Baltics on this side. And I would very much agree to what Dominykas said, that think of, how you can add this sustainability layer on top of the business, rather than I need to become a sustainability and green deal expert to create something sustainable. So that would be my take.
This is beautiful. I can't add anything. And let's come back to the basics, right? If there's a problem, bring me the solution and make it a sustainable solution. And then we will see a much better future in front of us, right? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. This was Duncan, CEO at EarthBanc, Dominykas, Stankevičius, Investment Associate at Launchpad Capital, Jonė Vaitulevičiūtė, a partner at Startup WiseGuess, and Rosvaldas Krušna, Chief Specialist in Investment Services and Undertakings Supervision Division at the Bank of Lithuania. This is a beautiful thing written on your business card, Rosvaldas. Thank you so much, guys. Have a nice day, everyone. And hopefully we did give you some food for thought. This is how it's called, right?
Right.
Thank you.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thanks.